Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 690, recorded live on Saturday, November 12th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Community Manager Cordovan.
Hey, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's always good to have you back on the show. Founder, the original host, and
Just
all
this
that.
past week, it happens to mark 12 years since I started working at Then Turbine.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yep.
This week's screenshot, Schaffer Gun dives into a coral reef landscape off the coast of Stormreach in the 571st screenshot of the week. Nice thematic screenshot. I feel like this one has to be pretty creative for you.
It's one of those where you go through the pile and it just sticks out
Right?
because no one's ever taken that shot, to my
Uh-huh.
knowledge, before and sent it in. So it was a clear front runner from the instant moment. And then there's a couple other good shots in there too that have come in recent weeks. So we'll have a couple of good weeks here, I think. But that one was just like, well, that's next. So
I mean, look, players take really good shots. I mean, like there's a lot of really great shots that you get in the screenshot of the week. But there's also definitely the ones that stand out are the ones that are unique and creative.
yeah, because it's fun, right? And that just helps build the gallery over time into something that's even better, right? So the idea is it's relatively low effort, hopefully on everybody's part, and the rewards and the stakes are low. But it's also something we just keep going.
Hmm.
Maybe not every week, but as pretty close to when we can. And at this point, we're at what 571 or something like
Yeah.
that. So it's yeah,
If
we've been doing
if
it a
you
while.
keep missing fewer weeks than I do, you'll catch up to DDOcast. It's only been
Yeah,
like
well,
3 weeks since we've done a
in
show.
recent weeks I've had issues. In recent weeks I've had issues, and that's partially why DDO.com needs an update as well.
Yeah.
Um, but we could
But
talk about that later,
can you
maybe.
just update the website?
No. That's not. I mean, specifically in terms of up to date information and the bullets and things.
Oh,
I have not had access. I've had specific access issues for the last 2 weeks. So
no, that old
yeah,
fun thing.
yeah.
Anyways, we like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyberears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. There'll probably be a show next weekend. There will not be a show Thanksgiving weekend. I'm just going to put that out there right now. It's not going to happen. But you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. I guess I should throw in a production note right here. Cyber Ears is going away, I guess.
Oh no.
I got an email today. It says they're shutting down. Uh,
Well, it has been a long run for them, has it not?
yeah.
So
So what that means for the cast,
wow.
not entirely clear yet. I just got that notice, but so that's going to change. There'll still be DDoCast, at least on YouTube and Twitch, and like there's ways to do this, right? Um, but I have to figure out
Yeah.
what that means for like the podcast feed and stuff like that. So
Way back in the day, what a weird coincidence that I happen to be on that week where this gets announced, right? Because that was my dealio back in the day. Is I
uh huh.
actually set it up with them. One of the people there, by the name of Miles, back in the day, I don't know if he's still involved, reached out and was like, "Hey, your show seems really great. You know, let's talk." And ever since then, it's been a really great thing to be a part of the Cyber's network. So it's been a long run, and they were very great back in the day. I don't know how they've been in recent years, of course, but
I have no
back in the
complaints.
day it was a real small kind of operation and a couple of cool folks. So it's end of an era, I suppose,
Yeah.
inevitable at some point. But wow, they lasted a really long time though too. So
It's kind of is it just me or does it feel like any company like it's just a matter of time until you either get bought or die. Like that's
It's
kind
got to
of
be
just where
what,
it seems to go.
15 years,
Yeah.
15 years that they were actively hosting
2006
DDOcast. So
is when they started
yeah,
hosting stuff. So
yeah,
and yeah.
wow.
So Anyways, what that means for DDOCast, not sure. That's what's happening. So, on the podcast this week,
You've
hey,
been
there,
saving the files, right?
yeah,
So I mean, that's the thing. As long as the audio files are there, you could even go on archive or something in a pinch if it had to, right? So
yeah. No, I have all of my audio files. Uh, I think might have to double check that. But in any case, I mean the videos are on YouTube and stuff like that. So that
that's true too.
actually like behind inside baseball, like I kind of stopped saving the video files. I saved the audio files, but I kind of
Yeah,
stopped saving the video files because they're one more file space.
yeah, it's exponentially so.
Right.
Yeah,
And two, I I don't have concerns about YouTube. Like
no,
so not to say that I have concern about cyber errors or anything. I just always kept the audio files in case I needed to rebuild something. But in any case,
that's cool.
yeah. On the podcast this week, we're going to talk about update 57. Probably talk a little about Extra Life, other fun, things about DDO and whatnot. Maybe we'll try to tease out, hey, what's the rest of the year look like? Stuff like that. So we'll jump into game news. And we'll just start by there are plans to offer an encore of Night Revels. And I believe this
Hmm.
is specifically for kind of related to hardcore, right? So it's really
Right,
about allowing
right.
people to use those ingredients to maybe get something for those characters, that kind of stuff.
So we shut down Night Revels, but because we were having some transfer issues, a bunch of players who had saved up their stuff on the hardcore server and elsewhere, and wanted a chance to get at the Night Revels, felt they couldn't do so. It was on hardcore last I checked, right?
It
Night
was.
Revels was on hardcore. So, but regardless, um, there were people who were stuck at the end of the season, really unable to use their remainder ingredients due to a transfer issues. So we did. We were like, yeah, that's fine. We'll bring it. We can do before we expire the ingredients? We will bring back Night Revels again. Um, maybe just a weekend, maybe a week. I would probably pitch a week. We'll see what we end up with, right? And give people a chance to just spend that last bit of stuff. I don't know exactly when it's going to be. We might. It seems like it might be kind of fun to do something around a certain holiday season towards the end of the year, because there is a certain movie that it would kind of be half a pun on, and I'm into that. So maybe we can make that happen. But then again, we also do have the reality that people are away from the office and doing things during the holidays, and can we support the event during that time period? I think the answer might be yes, but it's not determined yet. So I can't guarantee when it's going to happen, but it is on our radar to bring the Night Revels back for one last shot to let people just spend down whatever they want to spend down and just have fun with it before we expire the ingredients.
I would imagine that some people were thinking like, hey, I have some ingredients on hardcore and I have some ingredients on live, and I'd like to pool them together and get something. Might be part of it.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm curious to
yeah,
see how the server handles Festival and Night Revels at the same time. That could
yeah.
be entertaining.
I
Have
don't
we
know
ever
how
done two?
widespread it was known that Night Revels was on hardcore. That's the thing. I don't even know inside the office how many people
Oh,
entirely,
sure.
but but it was a deliberate decision to try and see what it did, and we didn't hear anything bad, so it seemed to be fine. You know,
Yeah. Have we
gives
ever
people a chance to get it.
have we ever
So
done two festivals events at the same time?
no, and that's part of the equation here,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
we have to discuss before we can really figure out when we're going to be bringing it back. Because we do have a lot happening here, specifically in the next 6 weeks or so. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to be able
Hmm.
to pull off in terms of bringing back Night Revels, but maybe.
Well, hey, let's talk about transfers a
Hmm.
little bit because there were transfer issues. They got shut down for 2-3 weeks, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
My understanding is it had a lot to do with banks and the new bank tabbies and stuff or something like that.
Yeah, we
Being
had
some
some items
issues.
that when they were arriving on their destination world were not displaying to the game client. They were not missing, thankfully. They were hidden, and we had to unhide them. But we don't want people having that experience. And then on top of that, we were having issues with Orion specifically. Although there was a brief period where it impacted a couple other worlds too. So unfortunately, that just makes it worse because it's not just Orion. But Orion has been having some transfer issues that have been particularly challenging to identify and resolve. So we are working on it, but Orion transfers are still disabled at this time. So what we're going to do for people who want to get to Orion, specifically maybe some people on the hardcore worlds who wish to go there, is we're going to have a period of time in the future where transfers to Orion are free.
From any server.
Yeah, from any server. And so it's not going to be necessarily a long period of time. There are some issues that will be in place where we'll leave it on for like a month or something like that, right? But for a period of time, we'll leave it on so that people can get their characters to Orion and do that. But we
Right.
have to fix this issue first, and unfortunately, I cannot announce that that's been done today. So
Yeah, there's something about the alignment of planes of Orion that makes Orion like this. But it's
no,
always weird to me, like when there's
mhm.
like something that's happening to one server. Like, why
I mean,
are
part of it too.
transfers to
We were
Orion
talking
kind of
inside
weird, right?
baseball earlier.
Yeah.
Let me give the DDOcast audience specifically a little bit of inside baseball here. And I think we've mentioned this elsewhere before, but I don't know that we really mentioned it to the DDO community much. And that is in recent weeks, we've been undergoing an office move. For the first
Oh.
time in a very long period of time, we are actually scaling our office to the new reality of the fact that we don't really even need an office, but we kind of have to have one for a little bit of thing. And so, what ultimately the past couple of weeks has not had many public facing issues because most of that equipment is in various data centers around the world and things like that, right? But specifically related to getting, like, say, update 57 out the door, and being able to access DDO.com to post up the new screenshot of the week, and things like that. We've had quite a few issues over the past couple of weeks that have been a problem. Um, as you can see, we did get update 57 out, and for the most part, things are looking real good. No need for an immediate hotfix, things like that. And we did have we're doing a lot of work here now too, and things are basically behind us now, but we're playing catch up. The next 48 hours of business work really to resolve a slew of work and things that are related to that. So frankly, some of the people who were involved in that actual physical office move process of, say, taking your build servers, the ones that the developers use to put together nightly game builds and things, physically moving that hardware out, really, in some cases, for the first time in many years. Because remember, we
Right.
became Standing Stone Games, but the office was in some ways still the old office because the office got split in half. And so in many cases, this hardware had been sitting there for some time, and they did a great job. I don't want to say that anyone did anything wrong or anything like that, but it just took longer than expected, and I don't think anyone's too surprised about that necessarily. But it did cause a few headaches here, and that's one of them. Is the people who would be specifically looking into Orion transfer work were involved in some of the technical aspects of putting together our ability to bring this game to you.
As someone who usually a couple times a month is involved in the business of loading in and out a rock show, it's like you get a lot of cables involved. It's kind of a minor miracle that it all comes.
Everything's looking good though.
Yeah.
As of not all that long ago, but yes, as of a while ago, everything's looking real good. So,
Nice.
and we do have update. We did get update 57 out on time. So
So I want to cover just a couple quick details about transferee stuff. After that fun tangent, but let's make sure we get some key information here. So transfers from the hardcore server are available for free, like normal,
yes,
through December 4th. So you
yes,
need to get your character off before December 4th. And
yes.
I I'll say this again. I say this every time. My high recommend is get your character off sooner than later.
You don't need that daily dice.
So here's the thing: like, get
Just
the
let it
character
go.
off, make a new character there, and roll the last couple days of daily dice, and just transfer that little tiny character or something, right? Like, but get your stuff off. Don't wait till the last minute to get that stuff off because you don't want to miss it, right?
Right. The reality is most folks actually are already off the
Right.
hardcore server. It happens very quickly at the end of the season generally. But we do have a remaining percentage of folks who do stick around for various reasons, and we want to make sure we give them plenty of time. So
Yeah. I mean, look, people have lives, and it's around the holiday, and um, some people log in every day, and some people don't, and log in like twice a month, right? Like, so you gotta give them time.
but at this point, at like by season 6, I don't want to throw out any numbers, but we see actually a very large majority of the active player base of hardcore pretty much gone
Right.
within about 24 hours of hardcore ending. So
I'm like bucking that trend. I mean, I got my character off, but I took a little time.
Yep.
Now, so again, so December 4th is the day that you have to transfer off of hardcore.
Yeah.
If you are going to transfer to Orion, transfer to a different server, and then there will be an opportunity to transfer to Orion in the future.
Yes.
Right? So that want to
For
make sure
free.
if you're on Orion and you have a hardcore character, you want to get to Orion, that's how you're going to have to do it this time. A little
Yep.
weird, a little wonky, but doable. So make sure we get that in there. All right. So on to
You can't be the guild leader. That's the main. That's the main.
right.
The main sticking point that say customer service runs into is people who try to transfer and are guild leaders, and then run into issues with transfer. So we if you hey, everyone forgets, but if you do manage to remember that one, that would perhaps save you some hassle.
Yep.
So
And if you do have that, if you are a guild leader on hardcore, may I suggest make a silly little tune whose only purpose in life will be to hold the guild leadership so the guild doesn't have to get disbanded. Right. So
yeah.
all right, so update 57. So there was a preview. Preview 2 happened while we were away. Sorry, missed 2 weeks instead of 1 week because I'm great at this these days. In any case, so I'm going to kind of gloss over that preview, but I want to highlight a new fighter perk that it'll be in the release notes we're going to go through here in a minute. But I wanted to highlight Second Wind, which is a new auto granted, I assume feat for fighter level 2. And you activate the ability and regain 50% of your maximum hit points. It's on a 15-second cooldown. You can use it once per rest. You get additional charges at fighter levels 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. It can be used while crowd control, which is really fun. And at level 8, it removes negative effects like the Panacea spell. Hey, speaking of Inside Baseball, if you have stat damage and are incapacitated because of stat damage, does that count as crowd control? Can you still use?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't think. Well, I haven't tried with Second Wind, so I can't say specifically.
Right.
I'm actually logging into a fighter right now to double check. I assume it's an auto granted feat, but I'm double checking.
Yeah, I mean that's usually how these abilities get auto granted, right?
Yeah.
Like it'd be in the feats list. Torque gave a little bit of more information. It's a heal. It will be affected by Reaper. It's a bit of an odd duck because what it really scales with is your hit points and healing amp, as opposed to positive spell power or melee power, something like that. On Reaper self healing, so he also. Well, hang on. Put a pin in that second part. Did you look at the thing so far? Look at it.
What do you mean?
That you were looking at up in fighter was a feat.
No, I am logging into Kyber right now to check my fighter. I have not logged into my fighter since then. I assume it's an auto granted feat, but I don't know. But to my earlier point though, my belief is that in general, if you're helpless due to stat damage, then things that break that you can use while crowd controls do not generally work. So I would not
Right, it's
expect
not
second
crowd
wind to
control.
work as well. Yep.
Going back to hardcore or to transfers real quick. Druid's Fire in the chat is asking, will characters who don't originate from Hardcore League get free transfers to Orion later? And
Yeah.
the answer is yes, because I don't think you can there's a way for you to differentiate that, right?
Maybe this is going to be some big gift to Orion. All said and done,
Maybe.
right? I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I have some thoughts about that, but I'm not sure I'm going to be that adventurous. Anyways, right. So, you might have the same cunning plan that I do, Druid. The other thing that Torque kind of let drop when we were talking about second win, Reaper self-healing. They're looking at that soon in a more global sense, but no changes for update 57. They do want healer-focused builds to be appreciated in Reaper, but the current system perhaps could be a little more forgiving on self-medicating. Yeah, and SSG's been talking for a while about like doing a pass on Reaper as well, and Reaper points and all that stuff. You don't have to comment on this. I'm gonna theorize that all of that might happen kind of together. Well, that wouldn't necessarily have to, but I'm hoping it's gonna happen together. I'm looking for more. Hey, Jerry,
seems likely.
Tell the team more Reapers. Reapers are fun.
Really?
Okay.
So
Here's my stance.
So we got overall. I think Hardcore Season 6 was very successful. It was certainly one of our biggest seasons in terms of active population and things like that. But I thought that we ultimately had mostly positive but slightly mixed feedback on some of the champions, specifically that were spawning and things like that. And
the champions
so,
or the hounds?
Well, the hounds too, but just generally, some of the mechanics there, and some of the ghostly champions with night revels were not always 100% appreciated either.
No.
So I'm not sure. I think we've been getting slightly mixed feedback on that in recent. No, but you think that that's incorrect? You think people do want more champs?
I can give you my 2 cents, which is I would like to see more kinds of Reapers. Just kind of in general, because it adds some flavor. I'm also a fan of because we have these different champion suites. I would love to see those rotate more, because I find the variety a lot more fun and interesting, and kind of shakes things up a little bit. I mean, I could my feelings on the hounds were kind of more mixed. Like, it was really fun for about 3 days, and then it was, how? Wait some more. This thing coming or not? And then it would come, right? Like that waiting part was just kind of slower.
Mm-hmm. Once you adapted, it
right.
Yeah.
Once you figured out, okay, there's a hound coming, don't do something,
I think there are pretty high odds that we will have new champion types. Probably seasonal would be my guess, related to festivals, because it seems to be like a fun thing that we could throw in there relatively easily.
I think the way that you guys have kind of tooled the festivals, like Night Revels, the Midwinter Festival, and using champions, great, love that. I just had a lot of fun with there was one time like the season 2 of Hardcore Champs migrated to the live servers for like a weekend, and it was great, and I loved it. And I mean, I think they're a lot of fun. If it was up to me, I'd say throw them all in at the same time, but I don't know if that's even feasible or not. But it's just fun.
Yeah, I think it could be done. Might require a game build. Could be done. Yeah.
But I am a big proponent of, we have these suites of champions. I personally like champions in general. I would like to see them kind of cycle through a little more. Understanding that is not always going to be a popular opinion, because there are some champions in some seasons that were more mean than others.
Yeah.
So there is that. But there's, you do like the double remnants boosts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like the idea of, hey, it's double remnant boost. There's different champions for the weekend. Have fun. And if you don't like them, well, they're only there for a weekend. not that big a deal. But yeah, yeah, Mystic is Mystic Dragon in our chat is sharing an experience that me and my friends also had of when we came back to the live servers and you hear a howl in like the Barovia Wilderness area.
Yeah, everyone stops.
You
And you're
have
like,
a
oh no,
moment.
wait, I don't have to worry about this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Wrong server.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yes, I've had that experience myself. Yeah.
no, I liked the hounds. I didn't like the waiting period, which
Well, they
was
should just keep coming one after the other, is what you're saying.
no.
Right?
I'm saying like you
Yeah,
hear the howl and you stop to deal with the hound and it just slowed you down. And
yeah,
but
yeah.
remind me afterwards. I'm going to tell you about an experience that we had at the end of hardcore too.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll take us to update 57 release notes. So this was released Wednesday, November 9th. So new quest pack, Grip of the Hidden Hand, free to VIPs. This continues the story of the Planar Eyes. Finish collecting the Planar Eyes from Wargrave University for a wealthy benefactor before the Cult of the Hidden Hand. This is 5 new quests, level 16 in Heroic and 33 in Legendary. Visit the lower quad of the Wargrave University, which can be accessed via the Sharn Clifftop Tower District to get started.
And that can be accessed from the harbor if you don't know how to get to Sharn.
Yes,
And you
or
don't have
a guild
teleporter.
airship
Yeah.
also goes to Sharn. There's a couple ways you can get there. Let's see. So, gameplay changes. The first one is the Imbue update. We've talked about this a little bit. So Imbue is a new type of toggle that adds extra damage to your attacks. This extra damage can be specific to certain weapon types, combat styles, or it can be focused on melee or ranged. They scale their damage with bonus Imbue dice, although Imbues can also scale with things like melee or ranged power. I think also some spell power ones are in there. You can only have one Imbue active at a time. Turning on a new Imbue will turn the existing Imbue off. Pretty familiar with that kind of mechanic. Stances and stuff like that. Many former procs from existing abilities and class enhancement trees have been changed to imbues. Benefits that previously boosted proc damage now generally boost imbue dice. I'm not going to go through the entire list. I think it's pretty much stayed the same. I mean, there's a bunch of different places where you can get imbue dice. They're all over the place. There's items. There's filigrees. Some of the destinies. I'd still like to see more in the Destinies, but there's a bunch out there. So kind of the high level idea here is throw a bunch of procs, damage procs in the different trees. You could actually like stack a bunch of them up and have a bunch of procs. I'm just going to hazard a guess and say that one of the reasons why this change happened is it helps with some performance things of not having 30 procs on your attack.
Yeah. Proc. Yes.
Right. But the other thing this does, this is gonna be really interesting to see how people build now, like, and how it changes some of that. Because you can get bonus dice from all over the place now, so it's gonna open up some different ways to improve. So I'm too lazy to do like the math and like really get into some of that stuff. I would be shocked if there's builds that are in a worse shape with this change, because you can just add imbue dice all over the place, and especially if you're kind of thinking along the lines of, well, but I used to have a proc here, like this proc and this proc and this proc, and now they're combined into one proc. Yeah, that's actually a benefit when you start talking about Reaper and damage reduction.
Yeah.
That it actually helps you in that case.
By the way, I did log into Kyber, and yes, it is a feat. So,
yeah. That second wind, if you're jumping around in this.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But yes, yeah. I think, the people who would be most affected would be those who had maybe particular builds that relied on stacking procs. So
yeah. But even then, I think the number of dice, like, there are dice all over the place. The only place you're not going to find dice is basically the fighter trees. Like, fighter's like the only place that doesn't have anything in here. So lots of interesting like multi-class options to kind of boost some stuff. A bunch of the races have them, which is kind of fun. Universal trees. I do believe the Inquisitive, it's supposed to be a D10, not a D8. I
Yep,
think I
that's going
saw
to get corrected now that I
them
have
both.
access back to the website on Monday.
um,
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so there's a lot of fun stuff here. I think I'm just gonna throw out a guess
Yeah.
that because I know there's a lot of people that I know that like to do basically an inquisitive tiaring build. So basically, they have like a couple levels of this of I think rogue and a couple levels of something else, and then they like whatever class they're doing a life on gets the rest of those class levels, and they're basically just doing the same inquisitive build. I think that build is going to be a really interesting build going forward because you have so many like you can get extra imbue dice to impact your inquisitive dice through all these different class trees now. So that multi-class thing is going to be kind of interesting to see how this plays out and as people kind of fine tune it as it were. So
Yeah.
should be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be cool.
Let's see some other kind of miscellaneous things. Pain Touch 1 and 2 from Ravager have had their small on hit proc replaced with +5 melee power. Death Frenzy now grants 6 strength since regular frenzy is losing its strength bonus. Not sure why that's happening, but sure, okay, fine. Divine Crusader's Law of the Divine.
Because it was a proc. That's why.
Well, no, it's a strength bonus.
But it was a strength bonus that applied as a proc. That would be my guess.
I don't
Because it
know.
was using that proc channel.
Oh, interesting. Divine Crusader's Law of the Divine still deals 1d6 law damage on hit per epic and legendary level, but its vulnerability and armor piercing benefits have moved over to Bring Down Wrath, so that the enhancement is more usable for people not using shields, and also so you can get the debuffs without needing the feat slot. Note that the Embodiment of Chaos upgrade in Fury is unchanged by this pass. Tempest Lightning Stance. Rather than upgrading it, increasing the base damage, the base toggle is now the Imbue. The upgrade grants the full 30% absorption. Ice Edges is now 1 rank and is no longer a prerequisite of the rest of the ice line. Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Hit points. This is the other big change.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go into a little bit more detail here. So changes have been made. Or is there anything you want to say about imbues before we?
No, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hit dice. Changes have been made to hit points in class enhancement trees with update 57 to better support newer players in melee character builds and heroic level gameplay. This includes changes to class hit dice, updating now heroic durability functions, and much more. So epic defensive fighting is gone. Bye. It's been
and same with that kind of close range spellcast thing that was with it. So.
Yeah, which I guess a lot of people didn't like, but I always kind of thought was interesting. Choices are interesting, but I'm also not sad to see it go either. The bulk of hit points granted with epic defensive fighting are now distributed in combat style feats and enhancement trees with some changes to class hit dice. Replacement and competence bonus have been spread around enhancement trees, mostly in tier 5 melee focused trees. I'm not going to go through the list of those. They're all over the place. I think almost every class got one, if not every class got a % bonus somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Heroic durability has been updated to provide plus 30 hit points. In addition, for every melee combat style feat you take, up to 4, you gain a 25% bonus to hit points gained from your class levels. Epic and legendary values count at half level. The bonus can only stack up to 100%. So I think another way that you can think about this is epic defensive fighting is being the hit points from that are now being spread out into heroic levels for one, because you can get access to some of those earlier, and it still kind of fleshes out. All classes with a hit die of D4 have had their hit dice increased to D6.
Yay.
Bard, Artificer, and Rogues now have hit die of D8. Ranger has been increased to D10.
Yay.
Someone was reading the 5th edition Player's Handbook when they were making this change.
Well, it could well be, right? A good idea is a good idea.
Yeah. So. It is kind of fun. Like, if you... if you take a step back and kind of look at DDO, because it was built on 3.5, but you can definitely see influences of 4th edition and 5th edition.
Mhm.
So, probably not a super popular choice, but I kind of almost want us to go to like the 4th/5th edition skills because there's so many skills in 3.5. In any case, and then like I said, there's a bunch of different places where competence is in the trees. Some of them are multi-selector, some of them are now parts of things. We've kind of gone through that before, so I don't want to get too crazy with it, but it's kind of all over the place. Yeah. I think that pretty well covers it.
One of the main goals there was to try to give people a little more hit points to play with in the earlier part of the game, so that it was a specific change to move some of that earlier in the game that you could acquire.
Yeah, and I think that's a good move, like front loading some of those hit points, because you are pretty light pretty early, especially if you don't have any Reaper points. Like, I think hardcore has really proven this point. It's a little harder to survive those first 5 levels, especially when talking about champs and hounds and reapers. Although I do enjoy seeing a message that says someone at level 1 has been killed, or level 2 has been killed by a reaper. Like, bold choice. Bold choice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, the person who led the board's got more than 3 million Reaper XP. So
yeah, but you don't do that in level 1 and 2.
maybe they do. I don't know. How do you get 3 million? You probably get it always, right? Never not.
It's at the end. It's legendary Reaper. Like that's how you farm legendary Reaper XP, not the.
Sure. Yes. Okay.
A level.
You're right.
A level 3, level 2 quest on.
It wasn't me, by the way.
Right.
I didn't win the hardcore season 6, so yeah.
A level 2 quest on 3 skulls gets you like 300 Reaper XP. It's not very much. Yeah. Anyways, back to the hit point thing. So I checked, and I don't know that my tank's hit points like exactly. I don't have that number memorized, but I checked like out just in town and going in on Reaper, and the hit points are roughly the same. Like, it's pretty close. I think it went down a little bit, but I'm not positive. Again, I don't know the number off the top of my head. Or either of the numbers off the top of my head, but it's really close. It's not.
Would that be because you didn't take the full line of combat feats, perhaps, to get yourself up to 100%, or some other reason?
No, he was using epic defensive fighting, so he probably had the feats. No, I don't think so. It might have gone up too, right? Like it's hard for me to. It's close enough that I'm not confident, right? I can tell the number's not. I know the number's not the same, but it's close enough that I can't tell if the number went up a little bit or down a little bit. And we're talking like maybe 100 hit points change. Yeah, it's not much of a change here. And
that level of I never. I mean, I would notice a significant change, but fewer than 100 hit points, I'm not even sure I'd really notice, because I just have so many characters in that.
Yeah,
I can't keep it all track. They're all straight, so.
Well, I mean, it's my tank, right? So like that's the thing I pay most attention to on my tank is the hit points, because it's kind of the important part. But he's still around. He's still like 6,200 out in town and like 7,500 in Reaper, so just more or less where he was before.
Yeah, I mean the goal is to do good here, not really nerf too much. So I don't think there's really much, if anything. It sounds like there may be a few people who will have a little bit, and I've seen a few forum cases as well that we'll look into.
Yeah, and I would kind of expect that to be true, because there's, depending on what you were doing and like how you get the points now, and I kind of wonder if a lot of that might be like, hey, I was using epic defensive fighting, but now I need to take this competence bonus in a tree that I wasn't taking that using that tree. Kind of like you could play some of those games. So there's that in there as well.
Well, there's also the possibility that there may be a bug somewhere in there with update
Sure.
57 too. So we would want to make sure, take a look at some things. So if you do actually, particularly if you are seeing an unexpected drop, please do drop us a bug report through help.standingstonegames.com. That could help. Because it is going to involve, well, what feats do you have? What X do you have?
Hmm.
And all that. So
And I would say maybe if you went down by like 50 hit points, that might not be. Well, I think what you're fishing for here is like if you lost like 500 hit points. Like,
yeah, I guess. Well,
yeah,
if you had a reason to think that you weren't getting a 25% confidence bonus for some reason or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah. Some other gameplay changes, some other stuff. There's Falcon mechanics have been revised slightly for playability. The Falcon pet will now automatically soar up when any combat starts and return when the combat is over. It will no longer go up and return after each strike, but will stay aloft for any strike as the combat continues. That means the shared cooldown on falconry attacks has been reduced from 3.5 to 1.3 seconds. Yeehaw. Falcon attack effects will now occur more quickly after a button press, and the melee range attack animations will now be affected by speed increases such as haste.
Yay! That
I,
all sounds great.
I know,
Yeah.
it's like all win there.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. The level 1 bolt spells no longer share a cooldown. Cool. I think there is like some issues with cooldowns in general, though. There's like some weird things happening with some of them.
Yes, we are looking into it. I don't know where we left off. There's a possibility we may revert to what we were doing until we can address it. But we had a fairly significant change that I think you'll get to at the end of the
mm,
notes here. But it's a performance fix essentially, um, having to do with. Where can I find this now? Yes. Fix an issue that was causing player abilities to sometimes break when the player was
hmm
rapidly hitting other actions or even the action itself if it was just coming off a cooldown. So this would essentially be you're hitting it right as it's coming off a cooldown and it doesn't do,
Right.
you know? We have basically what we did is we instituted really some kind of essentially like cooldown check, it's like of so it should be accurate essentially at that point. However, um, well, we're looking into what it may be.
Right.
But I think in the long term or in the short term, we may actually end up reverting this so that we can take a look at it. My experience is that it's largely the same. I think in the past, the reality is you could slightly rush it a bit, and now you can't. And whether that means it's say a delay in what you um is it an actual cooldown delay or is it that you were able to sort of maybe it's just a little later than what your hand movement is used to because you were able to essentially be less precise with it and have it still work and now it's more precise. I think some of the qualitative judgment on that really needs deeper investigation on our part.
hmm
And so I think what we might end up doing, what we'll probably end up doing, last I heard, was perhaps revert this in our next game update or something like that, and then reintroduce this in the future. But I don't know. What was your experience like? Mine was that it was basically it seemed it was a little different, but it didn't seem any particularly delayed on my gameplay, and I played a bunch. So
I mean, my experience is I've been really busy this week. I haven't
mhm.
even run the new quest yet.
Okay, I did. I ran
And
the
I'm
I ran the adventure pack. So
I'm running a
yeah.
warlock, which is perhaps not the best cooldown um
But
checky
then I also heard, yeah, because
build.
I also heard that. Okay, thanks for mentioning the class build, because I did hear specifically. It sounds like we may have an issue with some key strike abilities, and that may be in addition to, on top of, or essentially the issue here. And so I think we need to really take a deeper dive into the reports once we get a chance to do so.
Yeah, I always have a problem with warlocks because while you're Eldritch blasting, like I'll push things, but it won't fire because it's still like in the process of Eldritch blasting, and there's kind of this weird like unwinding of blasting that has to happen first that most other classes don't have to deal with. So, um, let's see. Wading through shallow water is now a bit faster when moving forward, about the speed if you were jump skipping.
Yeah.
Cool. One of the coolest additions to any spell ever. That means almost nothing. The spell Longstrider now makes you ignore the effects of shallow water. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun little quirk of that spell. I like it.
Essential in certain quests.
Yeah. Scorpions no longer burrow unless they are bosses or mini bosses, and will only do so to close the distance. Thank you. Phase spiders will no longer phase as much when going toe to toe in melee. Also, thank you. Monsters will now cast Tactical Detonation on a longer cooldown. Also, thank you. There's 3 really annoying things right in a row.
Yeah, and that's deliberate. They were all kind of quality of life fixes. The tactical detonation, as well as to help give players a chance to get back up and recover, rather than potentially find themselves in a position where they're kind of kept down for
a
couple of times.
Yep.
So,
let's see. Barbarian Fatigue no longer applies erroneously with Tireless Rage. Oops. Grandmaster Flower's Core 4 now grants its proper hit point and spell resistance bonuses. Razor Claw Shifter can now use the whirlwind attack with a better animation. Fun. Dark Apostate's Enhanced Curse 3 now applies more reliably. Condemnation and Acceptance and Divine Disciple now correctly grant spell critical damage instead of spell power. Divine Disciple Core 5 now properly boosts alignment spells. Numerous spells have now properly been marked as alignment and divine spells.
if you believe otherwise, please fill out a bug report.
Yeah. Lindabell had a list that I didn't grab. Negative Energy Adept and Pale Master no longer requires Wizard level 4. A variety of abilities that use the Whirlwind attack animation now properly scale with your attack speed, like Exalted Whirlwind, Avenging Whirlwind, and Arcane Tempest. Hey. Purge the Wicked and Divine Crusader now correctly doubles your critical confirmation bonus and critical damage.
Yay.
Riding the Lightning and Stormsinger now give its intended bonuses. What are these? The Night Revel Spectral Dragon Dungeon Skulls now hit for the correct damage. I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that got increased.
They were doing like 1 point of damage, no matter what the difficulty this season.
Oh yeah. I'm assuming they're going back to like what they were probably in previous seasons. That wasn't too bad.
They could hit hard though. They could.
Be the Whirlwind from Fury of the Wild now works with the Whirlwind feat correctly. Probably good. Several stances, such as Power Attack and Combat Expertise, no longer put all spells on cooldown. Yeah. Although I laugh at this release note, because several stances, such as these 2 melee stances, no longer put spells on cooldown. I know that people use both of them, but that was pretty funny. Let's see. Path of Light feat is now properly awarded to Blade Forged, although the Lord of Blades will be very sad if you choose to forsake him.
There will be consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do kind of... You're doing like the archetypes now. Boy, howdy. You already did a Paladin one, but like a Blackguard Paladin, that would be kind of fun. Just saying. Like a fallen Paladin would be kind of a fun one. Let's see. Force and Tandem from Fate Arc Illusionist now correctly lasts through death. Primal Avatar spells are now appropriately leveled, and therefore some of them work versus liches. I'm assuming that means some of them don't.
Yeah, it would be, well, I would need to look.
Yeah. I'm guessing there that it was like all of them were not, and now some of them are supposed to. Certain XP elixirs now function more reliably and no longer have a minimum level of 20 erroneously. I feel like that's come up before. But Razor Claw shifters using Smite Evil will use better animations. Was the animation guy bored this this time around. There's a lot of animation
Well, it'd be a
things.
bug. It would be a
I
bug.
know.
That's why. Yeah.
Um, Players will no longer see an invalid item has been removed from your inventory when receiving an auto-consume item like astral shards. Yeah. I actually had that happen right before you released these release notes, the first preview.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I saw the thing and I was like, what? And then I looked at, because I had just rolled the daily dice, looked at what I got, and it said astral shards. I was like, oh, sure, that makes sense. Items can now be organized within the tabs of the Reincarnation Bank. Items can now be moved from the Reincarnation Bank to the Personal and Shared Bank. If you attempt to move a bounded character item to the Shared Bank, it will fail, and the item will be placed at the top of the main tab of the Reincarnation Bank. Seems reasonable. Like I say, the new, as it's getting more and more kind of fleshed out, the new banks, I'm liking the new bank system.
Yeah. It's going to be a vast improvement. Already is.
Yeah.
So.
My only complaint, and I know this is why it was kind of pulled out, like the original one was kind of pulled off the table. Like I did have one set of bank tunes, which were holding or a couple bank tunes that were holding stuff that I had like organized in my in his character bank. That like that organization is just like gone, but like I could take the time and like make tabs and do it again. It's not like it's not repeatable. And there's a search function now, so still better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Spell components now have a type and a number tag at the front of their name to help them sort in the DDO store, player inventories, and elsewhere more easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I've been seeing that in game.
Yeah.
In my inventory. It's cool.
Feats with skill requirements now display those requirements better in their tool tips. Players will no longer be giving a confirmed dialogue when looting an item that is bind on acquire when in a party with only hirelings.
Yay!
The banks,
I know you want to give it to them,
yeah.
but you can't. Yep.
I mean, if I couldn't, it was actually beneficial. I'd totally do that sometime. The Bank Systems tab rename button has been updated and is now a button labeled Rename. When closing a bank panel other than the shared bank, remaining panels will remain active. When the shared bank is closed, all other bank windows are closed. If you don't have the shared bank enabled, the shared bank can be closed, but any other bank panel being closed will close the rest. That's I understand why it's programmed that way, but thank you to whoever programmed that, because that sounds a little convoluted.
You know there's going to be a logic tree with arrows around somewhere there.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Although it is nice that if you don't have a shared bank, right, that they thought of that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The last most selected character in your character selection screen now has a gold border. The gold border is no longer used to identify iconic characters. What's it? Last most selected character. So the one that I just selected, the one I played last.
Yeah. Well,
right, because you can sort them in other ways now.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever you last selected. So.
Raise your hand if you didn't know that the gold border meant it was iconic. Or that there was even a gold border.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know.
Totally didn't know that at all. So that was kind of funny.
If I probably knew, but I just didn't really register with me either. But people noticed when we went live with update 57, for sure.
Right,
so.
because that wasn't in the release notes originally, and there was like, hey, the gold border changed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So there is an issue with minimum item level, I think, with like moving items between banks. They're losing their level display when moving them between tabs in different banks. I believe that is still a thing.
Right. That should be fixed in our next game update, I would think.
Yep. There's been kind of long-standing reasons why some of that, like if an item changed what was in your reincarnation cache, it would like freak out sometimes.
Yeah.
And do that. Or augment. Augment's always kind of... Augments can do some weird things at minimal levels in banks too. Also, I wanted to let folks know the 150 favor reward for Moorgrave Favor is not currently functioning, but they will get that fixed in a near future. That is a new one, right? And it's plus 5 hit points. Is it just
Yeah.
the 5 hit points that's not working, or is there another aspect to it that's not working?
Yeah, it's not currently it wasn't hooked up correctly for the update 57 build, so it will be for the next patch.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Bonus days, 50% crafting XP boost now through November 13th. That's a pretty big boost.
And maybe I should be doing that right now. I should be doing that tonight. I guess that's what I'll do after the show, maybe. Take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid boost. If you're not capped, it might be a good time to work on that a little bit. I probably should do a little bit myself. It's been a while since I've done much crafting. And I'm, just gonna hazard a guess that at some point as we go higher in levels, the crafting system is gonna need to be expanded to higher levels.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
may as well get it, get up as high as you can, right? The Druid's Fire saying they went from 21 to 148 before running out of Caneth essences. Yeah. Good times.
Maybe I'll be that lucky. I know we did make it quite a bit easier to level up,
Yeah.
what is it, years ago now, but
if you are new to the crafting system and are looking to level, the conventional wisdom is to do the level shards, either bound or unbound, and it may seem a little weird, but go for the really low chance ones, especially if you have success boosters. Because even though you might fail a couple times, when you do succeed, you'll actually get more XP than if you'd have spent those essences on ones that you could do with a higher chance of success. So that's usually kind of the conventional wisdom there.
How low is low? What's your cutoff?
Do I have success boosters or not is kind of a question there, but
Yeah, right.
low, I'll take the 3% and throw success boosters in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because when you get it, you get so much XP from that.
Okay.
But that's kind of mileage may vary depending on your risk level. I mean, look, I've failed that 5, 6, 7 times, right? So there's also that. But yeah, it's lower. Go for, take some risk and you'll get more because it's just worth more because of how it's worked there, right? So, and yeah, Druid's Fire is saying there's only a 10 essence difference between the better success and lower success ones. So, and if you succeed, when you succeed, you get more XP than if you'd have always succeeded on a higher success, lower reward option. So that's kind of the theory there. But it definitely helps to get success boosters with that. So.
I mean, I've been doing that, but I think I was probably 50% or higher.
Sure. I mean, it'll get you there. So, I don't know. You might find that if you really ran the numbers, it might come out more or less the same. I don't know. Let's see. Store sales. Monster Madness, get 30% off of monster manuals, Slayer boost, pet certificates and tricks, companions, and pet renames through November 17th. Also,
this next one almost could be it should have been a news item perhaps towards the top.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of a good one.
The weekly coupon code. A free +3 Heart of Wood. Yeah, you heard that right. A +3 Heart of Wood with the coupon code FREEHEART. One per account through November 17th. So go get that.
It'll help a few people respec that wanted to because of maybe the imbuement or hit point changes. But otherwise, it's just kind of a nice freebie too. So take it. You probably will want it at some point.
Yeah, no kidding. Right, so that'll clear the game news. We'll do a little bit of community news, even though, hey Jerry, when's the Chronicle coming back? No pressure.
I'm not sure. I had hoped to have it back really by now. But knowing what I know I have to do really here in November and December, it doesn't seem likely it's going to be coming back by the end of the year. So I don't know, but it's on my agenda to do next. I have brought back both live streams as of just a couple of weeks ago here. And so I'm going to say early next year, but
yeah, there was one interview with Severlin that I have been busy enough that I am not doing a great job of being a news reporter and haven't actually had a chance to watch it yet. Pull stuff from it. I hear something about like double stat augments. Maybe in the future that could be kind of fun. Yeah, so the weekly Wednesday lunchtime live streams back. Also have Extra Life. You want to talk about Extra Life?
Yeah, Extra Life is going on this year. I'm taking donations through the end of November, and Team Standing Stone Games is doing really well this year. We've raised more than $28,000 for the Boston Children's Hospital. And if you do donate at least $10, you'll get into any of the giveaways that we do. And if you donate any amount and qualify for any of the incentives, then you just need to fill out a little survey and get back to me so I know how to get it to you. And all that information is up on DDO.com. It's also on the DDO forums, and you can find it elsewhere as well. But really the main thing is I'm giving away some goodies, community loot list stuff, things people are pretty used to. I do have a new Theracound pet that has been released in very, very limited numbers previously, so that'll be really cool. And all you need to do is just donate to extra-life.org/team/Standing Stone Games, extra-life.org/team/Standing Stone Games, and then go to DDO.com, click on the Extra Life image thing you see, and fill out the survey that's linked to there so I can get you your stuff.
I did ask you already. The Thera account is not bound.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
Right. You that's what you told me.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I know it actually, if I can make a small request of you, it might be a good idea to like go through the community list and like write which ones are bound. Like some of the pets are bound.
It gets complicated though,
yeah.
because some of these items go all the way back to like early 2006 era CS grants.
Yeah.
And so they have all this old code, and yes, we could maybe do the time to bring them all up to 22 standards, but again, that's kind of not the point of the
Right.
community loot list, So it kind of is what it is, and it is a little bit all over the place. But if you don't like your thing, I'll get you a different thing. So
No,
it's
I just mean
fine,
like, because some of the pets say like they're bound, and other ones that are bound don't say it on the list. That's why I asked you if the Thera account was bound.
Well, I did try to mark when they're bound. So if they're just ping me afterwards, let me know which ones bound, and I'll add it to the list. I did try to mark which ones specifically were like bound to character. So.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity to Extra Life raises money for sick kids. That's a great thing to get behind.
Yep. Yep.
So, and Sandstone Games is usually like in like the top donators or raisers for Boston Children's, which I think is like one of the like kind of premier children's hospitals.
I mean, they do a lot of good.
Yeah.
That's all I know. They do a ton of good. I don't know how they rank those things exactly.
Sure.
Actually, I'm right here now that I'm looking at it. But we got presented this for being a top fundraising team for Extra Life in 2021.
Hey.
Got this one here. This will be going
Shiny.
up in the office. And then I specifically got one for being a top fundraiser in 2021, although really I don't deserve any of this credit, you guys. But my name's on it anyway. And that's really nice. And that'll go up probably in my office. If I ever have an office again. Or at the very least it'll hang out in a space I've got for kind of work related
things.
Should
post some pictures of those in the Extra Life thread.
Mm-hmm.
And you did a live stream with Lotro. Are you going to do one with DDO?
Yeah. I just need to figure out when. And I've got a lot going on in my life. But I don't actually have anything going on over Thanksgiving. So I might actually do it over Thanksgiving, now that I'm thinking about it. Because I don't really have anything going on that weekend. So yeah, I might actually do some DDO on DDO stream or something like that.
Awesome. Yep. So look for that. Other opportunities to, and that's on the forums. You can find that. I'll try to remember to make sure I link that in the show notes. You can find Standing Stone Games, Team Standing Stone Games, and whatnot. All right, I think that kind of wraps up what I had. Anything you want to throw out there before we head out?
Been having a lot of fun. What have I been playing? I've been playing on Orion and Wayfinder, getting a couple characters built up a little bit for better presentation on the live stream and to just be a little bit stronger. And like on Orion, I crafted up a dinosaur bone crafted weapon, and I'm liking that pretty good. I'm liking that a lot. Liking my character on Orion a lot. It's a dark apostate, and that's looking pretty good. So I've been having a lot of fun doing that lately. That's what I've been playing in DDO. And then this week I played Update 57, the new quests, and I thought the team did a really great job on the new quests in Update 57. I really enjoyed it. So
Nice. Anything you can tell us about what the rest of the year looks like for DDO?
a little bit. We have a patch that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. It'll probably be after Thanksgiving, would be my guess, unless we have something urgent that comes up next week, essentially. So I would think we would be looking at something like the first full week in December, perhaps for that patch. I know that we want to get some updated cookies in for Festival, and that requires a game build. So I would think we would do that potentially December 7th, would be my guess. So what'll happen is the Jester Festival, or the cookies will, or the coins rather, the gold, silver, copper coins will begin appearing in chests about a week before the Jester Festival shows up. The Jester shows up, and you can trade on those coins for goodies. We're going to rotate some things in and out this year. It should be pretty sweet. And then it's usually what? Early January where the
Something like that,
reverse
yeah.
happens, where the coins stop dropping and then the Jester disappears a week later. And then a few weeks after that, we do the DDO Winter Games. And I would expect to see or not,
Midwinter Festival.
yes. No.
What's the
Snow
Resia?
Peaks Festival.
Snow Peaks.
Snow
Yeah, it's
Peaks
Snow Peaks now,
Festival.
right?
That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of. Yes. So I would expect the Snow Peaks Festival to happen in January here. Um, we've been talking about, the need to get characters off of the hardcore server by December 4th. There's a possibility that we might try to do some kind of hardcore Redux mini season here in the real near future as well. But I can't really provide any spill the beans more than that. But that is spilling some beans, which is that we are planning to do that potentially in the near future. Recall that the fifth season was what, 30 days, and was like a redux of season one.
I think it
Is
was
that
60
how it
days,
worked?
something like that.
60 days? Yeah, 60 days I think is where we landed. And I think we might do something similar to that here in the near future. And so stay tuned for a little bit more information about that. And then we have a lot we can't say about 2023. And that's really where a lot of our attention is starting to turn as we bring Update 57 out here in mid-November. We're already at work for the stuff that's happening early next year, but we're not in a position to say more about it because
Not time
it's
yet.
going to be pretty. Yeah, it's not time yet.
I was trying
It's
to think if
moderately
there's
big. So
I don't think you guys have really said anything about like what the next expansion is or what anything about 2023 is going to look like. Uh, yeah.
we will
So
though. We will though. Whether hopefully we should be able to do that before the end of the year. That would be my hope. Sometimes the actual planning of the year tends to bleed over the holiday a bit in a way that makes it difficult to get a producer's letter out
right.
before everyone goes to break, right? So it may end up being January before we're able to bring this to you, but I think we'll probably have more to say sooner rather than later, though,
Hmm.
and see what we can tease out here in the coming weeks. So
Nice. Well, that'll wrap up the show. So thanks for listening. Thanks for the folks in the chat. Truth's Fire is saying that you rolled a 20, natural 20, and you're keeping secret skill this week.
did I? I thought that was like a 13 at best. So yeah, yeah,
Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, Jerry. Thanks to
yep.
all the folks who help out with DDOCast. Thanks to Sandstone Games, to Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast, at least for another month and a half. Um, if you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can subscribe on Twitch or all that fun stuff. Depending on what happens with Cyber with hosting the podcast, a little extra. Someone's got some money lying around that wants to help. Because Cyber has been hosting the podcast and it's been super cheap. As in they've been doing it for free for the whole time, which has been fantastic.
Not the whole time, but most of the time. Yeah. Back in the day, originally, I did pay a monthly service for it, but it was very reasonable back then. I think it was at most like $5 or some tiny amount. So,
but so there may be a future ask around there, but the show will still be around, so don't fret about that. If you have a DDO themed webpage or a Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also hit up at DDOcast.com for our show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff, including some adventures in DDO, as well as some D&D tabletop. We just recorded another Tomb of Annihilation last night, so we'll get that out in the future-ish. So if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment or you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media for the latest cast updates. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place, as long as Twitter's still viable. Over or under. How
I don't
long
think Twitter's going anywhere. I really don't. So
yeah, probably.
We'll see what happens
what happens.
about it. But I actually read that they've had like their highest user base
Really interesting
ever in recent weeks, which is
intriguing.
a reality when everyone's upset and yelling on Twitter. I guess they're on Twitter then, aren't they?
Everyone's mad at Twitter, so they're on Twitter yelling about it.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
But but even beyond that, I think the service is too much of a worldwide phenomenon. That the only way it would go away is if there was something replacing it already. So
yeah. In any case, hey Jerry, you want to close us out with the tagline?
Oh sure. May all your attack rolls be crits, and all your chest level appropriate. Have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.
Thanks, folks.